All right, hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the BEARSKIFILM show. We got a little early start. We started 10 minutes earlier than scheduled. We were both ready to go, so we figured why not? Let's get this thing going. And no guests tonight, just me and David. So don't have to sit here introduce anyone to you guys or anything like that. Don't we'll plug our own channel. Check out BEARSKIFILM, right? No, but I just want to get straight to the point, man, because you know me. I was actually upset enough yesterday with it being a 3 o'clock game too, that I even wanted to do something right after the game. Me and J2K wound up going on for about an hour and a half or a little longer than that. And I made a topic at the end of that show that I wanted to start today's show with, and that's just the title, man. Is it time to sit Caleb Williams? And my thought process behind this is I understand the value of reps, especially for a rookie quarterback. I also understand the accumulation of hits and pain that all quarterbacks go through, right? When it comes to most sack quarterbacks in the NFL of all time, period. David Carr at 76, Bryce Young at 62, and Caleb Williams at 56. The thing is, though, David Carr and Bryce Young both played 16 games. Those numbers. At this rate, Caleb Williams might just hit that 76 mark that David Carr did. And man, that's not any way to groom a quarterback. I always say you're not learning anything from just going out there and get your ass beat and getting your head smashed into the ground. And would it be more about, since the season's lost, this team is showing signs of giving up? Is it worth putting your rookie generational prospect quarterback in harm's way? Like, wouldn't that be the cherry on top if he winds up getting severely injured?
Excuse me, perfect time to cough. I get where you're coming from. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it because there's so few things that we know about this year and about this team. One of the few things, I can't say I know it, but I feel like it's probably true, is Caleb Williams does feel not unbreakable in the physical sense, but I do feel like he is a mental giant instead of a mental midget, right? Like what we talk about. One of the few things that rookie quarterbacks and even especially Caleb Williams had a concern about was something like turnovers and making too much plays at the cost of making good plays. He has one of the best like turnover ratios in the league this year. It's almost 4-1. He has 18 touchdowns and 5 picks. So I think he's mentally strong, and I don't feel like necessarily the sacks are piling up in the way that I think you're worrying about them, because I think he takes them intelligently. I remember talking to you at the beginning of the year about what Joe Burrow says. And yesterday specifically, I can't believe he took 7 sacks, which is even crazier. But Joe Burrow was saying something about when Joe Burrow was the highest sack quarterback in the league that year, and I think they went to the Super Bowl. He said, it's different. I take sacks when I know that I can. So he's like, if it's 3rd and 12 and I'm just trying to make a play, I may as well take a sack, because unless I get the first down, 3rd and 17 and 3rd and 12 are just not that different. So I see your point. Really, I think the only argument with it would be the injury side more than anything. I don't necessarily think that it's detrimental to his reps or his growth. Because I think Caleb Williams, he doesn't seem to be the guy to get like happy feet if somebody better came along and he had a better offensive line and the game plan changed and stuff like that. I think he's smart enough to adjust to whatever he is going to end up seeing long term. But I do get your point, and it's not crazy. But I'll let you rebuttal to that, and then I'll
Yes. So my concern isn't so much mental. Like you initially said, it is more of the physical concern. Although David Carr did start seeing ghosts pretty early on in his career, and you could probably attribute that to being sacked 76 times your rookie year, right? And so we talk about guys like Andrew Luck. The sacks never messed him up mentally. He only survived 7 years in this league. We talk about guys like Cam Newton who put their body in harm's way on purpose, only lasted 8 years in this league, right? And then we talk about a guy like Russell Wilson, who's undersized, fairly mobile, but smart and careful, and he went 9 seasons straight without missing a game. And so what I'm saying is, I always go back to this Carson Wentz moment. I remember Carson Wentz's rookie year. He had a rush up the sideline. I think it was week 2. And he got the first down, could have stepped out of bounds, but nope, he stepped inside and took a fucking lick from Urlacher. He sprung right back up to his feet because he's 22 years old. I remember going, "Oh, you're not going to survive in this league very long doing that, kid." And that's not even a sack. That's just being cocky with your body. You know what I mean? And this stuff adds up, man. It does add up. So I am concerned because that should, if my number one thing for Thomas Brown, and, I entertained all the cute discussions, all the Mike Tomlin comparisons, all the different stuff, maybe they went out and this and that. And I was trying to be polite. I should have been a lot more harsh with this than I was. For me, all that mattered is Caleb. And keeping Caleb upright matters a lot to me. 7 sacks? I don't want to put the kid through that, man. Not for the rest of the year.
I get your point, and I'll even frame it from a different lens because I do get the advantage of it. Who cares? You're probably not going to win Rookie of the Year. There's really not much to gain there. Really, like what the cost benefit, right? Is if he plays, all he's getting is really good regular season reps. Here's the other part of it that's realistic, dude. You're not sitting him versus the division. You know what I mean? Like those are also like I would almost understand if you were playing, some 3 NFC West teams to end the year. These reps do matter because you're going to see them for the next 5 years, hopefully, and hopefully more if he's willing to stay here after that, because who knows at this point. Those are reps that do matter because those teams are going to kind of feel that atmosphere. Those teams are going to stay moderately similar. Stefanski, or not Stefanski, but Kevin O'Connell's not going anywhere. LaFleur's not going anywhere. Dan Campbell's not going anywhere. They're going to attack Caleb similarly and the same for the next 5 years, twice a year. You need those reps. So that's the one thing of why you just can't do it, I would say, right? You just kind of have to give him those reps. He's not going to learn much watching Tyson Bagent. The other part, yeah.
But we have a division rival in the Green Bay Packers that's done this twice now. He's had a quarterback for 3 years. So to sit there and, I understand what you're saying too, but I think we put so much value on these in-game reps and so little value on just still being able to learn, even though if you're not in, you know what I mean, in under center right there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers learned. Jordan Love seemed to learn. It's not necessarily detrimental to have a guy learn from the sidelines.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a messy situation. The reason I will say with you that I agree is I also just don't think that this team has any pride left. And I don't know if they ever did. And I think it's almost evident at this point where, I wanted to talk to you about this. We can kind of elaborate on it after Caleb Williams, but I think
no, you had it right into it, man. I don't care.
No. I want to finish the Caleb Williams point as to why I think you're not wrong. I don't think you're crazy for saying it. Maybe you thought I think you were crazier than that, but
no, I'm crazy for different reasons.
Yeah. The reason I don't think it's the same parallel as like Justin Fields or something, right? Was because you brought that point up where I brought it up last year. Like you should just sit Justin Fields and give Tyson Bagent the last 4 games. The reason that made sense then is because you knew you were going to move on from Justin Fields. So you may as well see what you have, right? The may as well see what you have thing this year is like benching Braxton Jones and starting Kieran Amagaje, right? Like that's the equivalent this year where if you know you're not going to pay Braxton Jones and you know he's going to be expensive and he's injury prone and he needs a contract, start that. But Caleb isn't going anywhere. The disadvantage I would say is there's no pride there. There's no like, we're gonna keep Caleb up. We're gonna game plan for him to get good, hard reps here. It's gonna be more throwing shit against the wall for the next 4 weeks and seeing what sticks and Keenan Allen just fucking, running out his last 4 games in Chicago and DJ Moore getting pissed off. It'll be so much more of the same. I think like this was we said it with Thomas Brown where it was, you said it and I said it. I think you said it more, but like, the eye test with Thomas Brown was going to be so important with what he pulled off in the first game. And the first game told me everything I needed to know. He can't get anything special out of these guys. There's no coming back from this. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no 4-game miracle here. There's going to be more of the same. There's no pride here. It's just going to be, again, throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks, which is a recipe for getting Caleb manhandled and massacred, which is why I agree with you in that sense, because if you're not out there to win games, then don't fucking throw out your first round pick, your first overall pick that you've never had before. You've never had a quarterback prospect like this. And you want to talk about, like you said, how to break it, how to break a quarterback versus make a quarterback. We laughed and we argued and we got so mad about how the Bears always make the same mistakes, and they're making the same mistakes that they made in their own building, for God's sakes, less than 3 years ago. They still make those mistakes. And they've never had this opportunity to make this mistake, but other teams have, and go back and review that. Like you just said, Derek Carr, right? David Carr was the catastrophe.
David Carr, yes, my bad.
So David Carr,
David Carr,
I don't remember, but David Carr, Andrew Luck, like those are your examples. Bryce Young last year. Bryce Young came out broken this year. The team was better. The offense is better. Bryce Young was broken, man. It took Andy Dalton to kind of like right the ship, and then he came back and he looked a little bit better. And now he looks calmer. But like you're breaking these guys when you do this shit. So you're right. I'm
just saying, like if he goes out next game, gets a bad shoulder injury.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just gonna be left blank staring at the TV because it's just like, okay, well, that could have been potentially avoidable. And so there's just one more variable to this little discussion, and then we can move on to Thomas Brown. And you said Caleb Williams isn't going anywhere. That's true. However, Tyson Bagent's last year under contract is next year. There could be a situation in the offseason where a team's quarterback goes down, and Tyson may be an enticing trade piece. Wouldn't there be some type of benefit to put a little bit more on tape for him and give him an opportunity to kind of show a little bit more of what he has for the trade value?
I couldn't agree more, but buddy, I mean, we're talking about a chess move. We're not even playing checkers here. Like we're talking about planning 2 to 3 steps ahead. We don't even know where the fuck like we're going tomorrow with this team. So yeah, do I agree with you? Like at least give them a 2-game sample size with Tyson Bagent or thinking, but this team is just like, we need more quarterback. Maybe we get a third one. Do we draft one next year? Like that, it's just like a stupid logic that this team follows that. And frankly, I don't even know what the hell, who's in charge anymore. And that's kind of part of my segue into the next.
Yeah. So moving on to Thomas Brown, did you know, David, that we're now a violent football team?
I saw it. Yeah. Violently shitty.
We're very violent.
We took a violent shit out on that field.
I hope this, I mean, it's a quick reminder to everybody. It's not what you say, it's what you do. It's not hard to go out there and sound good in a press conference. Even though we haven't had that very recently, we do have it every time a guy is hired. It always sounds great when there's no problems. When there's no games, there's no losses, there's no record, then these coaches can go up there. You know, even with Caleb Williams, one of the things I realized just from putting the press conference videos together, he was such a more fluid speaker at the beginning of the year. And now it's just, you know, you struggle to find answers when you sit there and have to come up with answers for this crappy product that you're putting out on the field. But when the hype is high, it's easy to sound good. And so that's what happened. The hype kind of rose again. We got rid of Matt Eberflus. Everybody's excited. Oh, we might win out. He sounds great. And it just, nothing, man. I wanted to specifically point out to you in a press conference he had today, he said, yeah, there was no quit in our team. Jalen Johnson definitely quit on a play.
I would argue a lot of players quit, yeah.
Yeah, so for him to go out there and say that, okay, so you're going to say accountability, we're going to hold players accountable, but then you're going to say there's no quit in the team when there's clearly quit in the team, and they all know it. So now you're not going to hold anybody accountable.
Yep. And the wheel goes round. So
yeah.
Sorry, I noticed we have a new person who is watching our videos that kind of came through, I think, from Carl. So I wanted to give him a shout out for being a consistent viewer. So we got Ampharius here now. Thank you, Carl, for having Ampharius be introduced to us. So I think Caleb
gave me a shout out on my tool shirt last night, so I made sure to wear another different tool shirt today.
Very cool. But yeah, it's saying that he needs more in-game reps, needs to learn to get to the check down or hot route sooner. Definitely improving from the beginning of the season. I agree. All those things are better, and I think like we were talking about it, how we opened this is one of the surprising things for me about Caleb is his ball security. People making fun of him with that weird fumble yesterday that he had like the forward throw, but it ended up going backwards and people making fun of it. I'm like, dude, this is his first turnover in like 500 snaps. Like, shut the fuck up. So whatever. But yeah. So you're talking about accountability and stuff. And I think one of my favorite phrases about this team, and especially under this regime, we've used it over the offseason and stuff, is where the Bears are really good at hiding where the stink is coming from. And I think at this point, I've pivoted a little bit because me and you are always kind of flip flopping, and I know you do too, and I do too, where we blame the coach, the player, the coach, the coach, the player, the coach. Who's more responsible for all this stuff? And I'm curious to I have my answer, but I'd like to open it to you without leading you in any direction. Where do you feel like the current stink, the week, whatever week it is in the NFL season, like where is the stink coming from the most to you?
So I think right at the end you said it the most. I mean, the stink is everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just how much do you put where? I think a lot of it was coming from Matt Eberflus. I did not expect Thomas Brown, who got 2 promotions in 18 days, to come in here and be the saving grace of this team. I mean, I just didn't believe in it. I still do believe that a different staff altogether can get the same roster and the same talent and get a lot more out of them than they're currently getting. Right now, these guys are not playing 100% effort. It starts on the field, right? You already kind of handled the stink at the head coaching position and at the offensive coordinator position. At this point, you can't blame those 2 guys, right? You can't blame the offensive coordinator and the head coach now because they're just both in here new, whatever. They're just going to hold it down. But I think more of the stink has gone up the ladder, up the chain to Ryan Poles as well. And I think you have to look at the GM position and wonder, hey, where are we at with this? Because clearly it's not great. If Ryan Poles is on a hot seat next year, then you can't do this. Draft a quarterback, a year later get a new head coach, a year later get a new GM. That's awkward.
I mean, awkward's an understatement. So
if there's enough stink, man, you may have to look at least potentially entertaining the idea that if there's a head coach out there who wants his own player personnel guy, that might be a possibility here with the Bears.
So yeah, you segued it perfectly. Yeah, I mean, so the players to me get much more credit for the stench right now than I previously wanted to give them, because the lack of pride after allowing the inmates to run the asylum and get Matt Eberflus fired. Not that Matt Eberflus didn't deserve it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go there. But you got what you wanted, and you basically, got to take the thing that you were blaming out of the way. And now there's no one to blame. So who are you blaming now? Who are you going to come out and say is the reason that you guys aren't able to access these levels of readiness or whatever the hell else your new excuses? And that's what I don't understand about them. And that's why I think a lot more blame went to the players for me after this week than I was previously ready to give. And man, that conversation, you want to start it, we can start it now. We talked about how quickly Ryan Poles was kind of putting his job in jeopardy by making moves or not making moves this offseason, right? Because we said that if
David's cutting out here a little bit. David?
I mean, Eberflus kind of flops or fake. Yeah.
David, yeah. I think we're going to give David a chance to maybe exit out and rejoin in. I don't know. Something's up with his internet. It was very choppy. David, you good to go? You want to try again?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm hardwired, so it should be all right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's give it another shot. If you do, then maybe
I don't know where you left off or where I.
You're still choppy, man. Why don't you try just quitting and coming back in real quick?
Okay. I'll be right back.
So, but I think to David's point, there were a lot of different paths this could have gone in the offseason, and Ryan Poles definitely chose a very interesting and unique path and really stuck by it. I mean, the way this team was constructed is very very awkward. It's unusual. To build from outside in is not the way a lot of teams do things. And, there were clearly some obvious holes that were just band-aided or ignored. And these things have come back to bite us in the ass really, really, really hard. And on top of it, you sat there, and as a GM, you are responsible for everybody under you. So the failures of Shane Waldron fall under Matt Eberflus and under Ryan Poles. Like, at the end of the day, you're the one that puts the stamp on that decision. I mean, you're the guy signing his check, right? So you have to have some, we talk about accountability. You have to still be held accountable in that sense. And like I said, I really liked Ryan Poles' approach early on. However, the more and more time goes on, you start to see a lot of these failures, a lot of this, I don't want to call it neglect for certain positions, but it's definitely, you definitely didn't invest into the areas that you should have. And there's also a lot of player and talent mismanagement. You got draft picks that you've got that you're not using at all. You got, a situation where you even sold Jalen Carter off for a 4th-round pick, and you cited culture was the reason why. Where's your culture right now? So there's definitely stuff in the offseason that Ryan Poles did and stuck by that really makes you kind of raise an eyebrow. I don't know, David, if you wanted to just start your point over or whatnot, or
No, yeah, I can
have at
keep
it.
going. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not laggy anymore.
Yeah, we'll see.
By next show, I should be able to do some checking on the band
we'll
and
figure it
everything.
out. But yeah, go ahead, man.
No, yeah, I just think how quickly Ryan Poles' leash kind of ran out on himself, and how much of that to blame is on him, because we talked about how much he's him hitching his horse to the Matt Eberflus wagon. I thought it was probably the safest choice for him in terms of his longevity here. That, hey, if Matt Eberflus kind of performs well, because I just didn't see this bad of a season coming. I don't think many people did, but we predicted that if it's like Eberflus just kind of elevating or staying the same, they were 7-9, I think, the year before, right? Like maybe they get to 8, maybe they get to 9 wins, miss the playoffs, but it's a team on the rise, and then you can kind of upgrade Matt Eberflus versus doing a whole retooling. But the catastrophe that this is showing to be, and I think the problem is that he hitched his horse to the wagon that, unfortunately, like, to me, made his career here the shortest. I think somehow, some way, the safest choice, what happened, I think, ended up being the most dangerous choice, which is now it's all on you, dude, because the players are underperforming. They don't have any culture instilled in them, which was also part of your problem because you hired the coach and the culture that you created as a GM. So, yeah, I mean, we can talk, and I think one of my questions moving forward is just going to be like, what's next, and what do we do to move forward, and how do we go from here? But part of that, I think, a major problem is just that Ryan Poles. You said that if a coach comes in here and wants his own player personnel and his own guy, and they're like a package deal, I'm not even entertaining it. I insist upon it. I don't want to fight back or push back that Ryan Poles could still do it, because, like you said, that timetable, dude. You need to reset as much of it from the top as you can. And if Kevin Warren's not going anywhere and George isn't going anywhere, you have to reset as much vertically as possible and then just work your way down, because we know who's not moving, and it's those two guys. So, yeah.
To address Thigh and Smy here real quick, Jalen the Convict Carter would be worse than Zach Pickens on the Bears, since we don't have 5 of Carter's college teammates on our roster. I'm glad you feel strongly that way. And if you want to talk about your feelings, Ty, that's fine. Talk about them all day. We can entertain feelings and possibilities, and you know what I mean. But there's some evidence here, and it's what's happened. What's happened is Jalen Carter's played a lot better than Zach Pickens this year. So situation, sure, you can argue and make that point and this and that. However, that's speculation, and at the end of the day, the guy's out there tearing it up, man. So it just kind of, it's an uphill battle to argue, I think. And Farias says, I'd still take Warren and the extra pick, but definitely should have done more for the D-line. Yeah. Sure. And I get that, Farias, but it's not that I disagree, but when you come out with the reason why you do it, and the reason was our culture, that's where it's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, dude, uh, that's not
Here's
what would have ruined your locker room. Your locker room imploded on its own. So
You know what bugs me the most, Paulie, and that's when these NFL people start pretending to be the smartest guy in the room and kind of just insist on making moves that, well, no one else would have made this, right? And Ryan Poles and the way that he constructed this team, I think it was just more of one of those things when we've had this conversation with somebody else. I want to say maybe it was J2K, where we were insistent, like it doesn't matter where you are positionally in the draft, then trade down, move down 5 slots, get some value, and trade what you need for, or go get what you need instead of getting wide receiver number 3. Like, God bless Rome Odunze. He looks fine. He looks great. Yada, yada, yada. We can talk about this for fucking ever. That Rome Odunze was still probably a pretty good player to take.
Malik Neighbors looks great too. What's their record?
So does Brian Thomas Jr. and so does fucking Lad McConkey. So I don't really want, like, yes, Rome Odunze is going to be a good player. I agree. It's not the point. It's the fact that you needed so much more differently. And next year, I don't trust Ryan Poles to go out and how we're all joking on the internet, on Twitter and stuff that like, oh, the first 5 picks, rounds 1 through 3 need to be line. I don't trust Ryan Poles to do that at all. I see like 2 of them being used online, and then one of them we'll see on a running back or something. Because that's just Ryan Poles being clever.
You also can't just plug 4 rookies in there and call it a day.
It's impossible. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's not how you're going to do this. You need to do both, man. You need to address it through free agency, through the draft, and you need to explore potential trade options. Like you're that bad in that category to where you need to probably exhaust every possible option at trying to address it, man. It's ugly, and you could argue that it's even uglier than it was 3 years ago, Dave, when he took over the job. So it's interesting that, and this is where it comes back to this whole thing that we've been saying, like Ryan Poles is like, oh, we need time. We got to build this thing right. We got to tear it down to the core. Then you didn't build it right. And now we've wasted 3 years where you look at other organizations and they turn around, man. They turn around and they can do it pretty damn quickly if they know what they're doing. Right. So I'm running out of patience on a consistency basis. Like in this league, it's a do or die cutthroat league. I don't, man, somebody cited coaching growing pains. Oh, well, you got to give a rookie head coach his growing pains. It's just like, no, dude. So we have to sit here and because the timeline's all jacked up. Oh, well, 1 year is going to be GM growing pains. The next year it's going to be rookie quarterback growing pains. The next year it's going to be rookie head coach growing pains. And we just do this year after year after year after year. No, man, at some point you're supposed to have some parts of this figured the fuck out. Oh.
Hopefully I'm not choppy. I don't know. Am I clear?
Your video's...
Paulie, you're muted.
Your video's choppy, but I hear your audio just fine. Yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on with you today, man.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But so the other part of that and what you're alluding to is you have all these weird timelines and stuff, and I do not trust this team to make slight adjustments with a new head coach and get the same results as what we've seen so far to end this season. I don't know. Sorry. Is it bad? Am I bad? Am I choppy?
I mean, I can hear you.
As long as you can hear me for now, I guess that's all right.
Yeah, you could also just stop your camera and have a little icon if you wanted to, man.
That's all right. I don't mind as long as you can just see whatever. I know. There was an internet outage in my neighborhood, so I think something happened with the LAN route connection. So
he won't blame the Mac Thigh. He'll blame
right nerds. But no. So like that's a part of my bigger issue is like I'm leading all of this to say like I need Mike Vrabel here at this point. I think that's kind of where I think that's the only like coaching hire that'll get me excited moving forward. I think going into the next offseason. I think I need just Mike Vrabel. This needs to be completely retooled with a different perspective, a different view on what football looks like, because this isn't it. It's not some fancy sport that, with a quarterback like Mike Vrabel will come in here and make Caleb throw 22 times a game, and I'm okay with that. because that's what Jim Harbaugh did in LA, and it worked out just fine. So for me, I just don't trust. I don't necessarily trust or believe in anything else. And what this team, I think Mike Vrabel has to come in here and let some guys that you won't think he's going to let go, like drop some players that you don't necessarily want dropped. And I think it is necessary because when you look at what this team is doing now with, I mean, this is them motivated. Thomas Brown, we're playing for Thomas Brown. We're playing hard. We're a violent football team now. That's what you come up with. You're not competing next year, and especially not in the NFC North. What is the game plan here? Unless you are doing a 5 to 10 year plan moving forward, which I'd be okay with too, actually. But a coin flip on Ben Johnson, I don't trust it. A coin flip on, whoever, Liam Cohen, like maybe Liam Cohen will go somewhere and we'll look stupid, but it's not what this team needs. You need Mike Vrabel at the very minimum as defensive coordinator, hopefully as head coach, but I don't think he's taking a DC job somewhere. I think if he was, he would have done it this year. So I don't know. Whoever I think gets Mike Vrabel, you're looking at like culture changes and just like logic and intelligence behind, football making decisions. I'm not going to get excited for really anything else.
And David, and I think we both agree that ideally you want an offensive minded head coach.
Yeah.
You're also working with what you're working with who's available, right? So that experienced offensive minded head coach, it's just not out there this year, right? I would much rather take an experienced defensive head coach still rather than going out and gambling and trying to get lucky and trying to test the unknown, trying to, dip our feet in the water, trying to give somebody an opportunity, somebody a chance. The problem is, and this is, I hate to make this point for you because, I know you love to make this point. There are talks throughout the league, throughout front offices, that this isn't a good place for coaches because of the McCaskies, right? And so that might be part of the reason why only guys who are willing to get their, to have the opportunity to get their first shot are willing to come here and test out the waters. However, John Fox did come here, right? So there's also that, but more recently you got a lot of guys that have come here as their first head coaching opportunity. Matt Nagy and now Matt Eberflus. Guys, Matt Eberflus, when he was on the Colts, they were about to not re-sign his contract. He essentially was getting let go by the team he was on. The Bears signed him and promoted him to head coach. This wasn't even a guy that the Colts wanted to keep around. Dave, your camera's stuck. I don't know if your mic is on or not.
I
there you
don't know
go.
how
I can hear you.
But
I can hear you.
As long as, my face will be frozen today, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Sure, just go to the logo, man. Who cares?
Yeah. Let me, if you can give me another 30 seconds, I'm just going to reconnect my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead and quit out, come back, do whatever. So, I think this last game against San Francisco, I think really, really helps push that narrative that I've been talking about just getting somebody in here who's stable, stability and experience. Guys, we don't need the best head coach out there. Like, I know Kyle Shanahan's a dream. You'd have to trade for him. I know Sean McVay's a dream. I would love those guys to be here. I would love for Mike Tomlin to be here. Those things are a crapshoot. Not going to happen. However, I don't think you need those guys. There is talent on this team. As long as, from a coaching standpoint, the floor is high and you're not making these guys go through an uphill battle from day one, from training camp. I mean, Keenan Allen, you could tell he's been fed up with the way Matt Eberflus did things. And he knows because he's been around the league for a while. DJ Moore, even when the first year he got here in the second game against Tampa Bay, one of the Tampa Bay players came up to him and they're like, man, they don't know how to use you. And he's like, tell me about it. And DJ Moore still had a good year, but that still might be true. And so, just having even, a coach, like I said, it doesn't have to be, Mike Vrabel's not the best head coach out there, but I think he's good enough to set up a stable floor and a stable enough environment that will allow the talent on the field to go out there and be able to shine and be able to thrive. Because at the end of the day, that is what has to get it done. However, like I said, you just can't have these guys working through an uphill battle the whole time. They shouldn't be worried about the play call coming in fast enough. They shouldn't be worried about the things that the coaches are responsible for. Those things should be set.
At the very worst, too, to kind of address Ampharius's comment, it'll show the Bears organization, which I genuinely, since Lovie Smith, I don't think they've seen what good coaching in this modern day kind of looks like, or what it's supposed to function like. They can take hints, they can see what they've seen from afar. But whenever I see Matt LaFleur and his smug face just kind of looking at us and just knowing he's going to be their daddy again, he's just like, this is not what we work harder on a Tuesday than you guys do on a Friday. Like, we are 100% just better at this coaching thing than you guys are. They're not scared. They know it's not a battle of wits. They know it's not a mental game. Like you say, it's not a game of chess until it's a game of checkers. They know that part. So, yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem, right? Is I think Vrabel knows what he's doing in the NFL circles. He's definitely going to have a really, really good Rolodex to call. He's going to have, his positional coaches are going to be better than most of our like actual offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. Like his tree is going to be better than what you're producing here at the top. And I think that's part of what we need.
And the other thing we said about Matt Eberflus too, it's like, okay, what exactly has he done? Like, what exactly did the Colts do with him? Like, we're taking a guy from an organization that, you want to talk about establishing a winning culture. Do you know how to do that? Did you do that in Indy? Or are you guys just average? You want to talk about Mike Vrabel? Drafted by Pittsburgh, I believe. Spent a couple years on Pittsburgh. Spent his prime of his career on New England. And then I think he spent like the last year or two on Kansas City. You're talking about 3 top-tier organizations, right? Especially the first 2. Seen, lived, played, won, done it, right? So at least he comes in with the life experiences of being a champion, understanding what setting high expectations actually means and what it takes to do that. It's not just words. You see what I'm saying? It's not just words. And so...
And part of that, Paulie, but like, yeah, we're almost talking about Mike Vrabel like he hasn't done it before. Tennessee was competitive as fuck for the 3 years he was there.
With Ryan Tannehill.
With Ryan Tannehill. They went from like a kind of a semi-joke of an organization to just being an upset guy. Went to the playoffs twice in 3 years. Third year, it was just talent and a new GM, and they didn't get along, and it all kind of collapsed on him, and for some reason they let him go. And even I was shocked when they let him go, because it definitely became a more personal thing. We all have our fantasies in here. We talk about, Thai wanting McVay, I want Shanahan. We all have our fantasies. But at this point, the realism is if the McCaskies are willing to make some sacrifices here, I think it's too much to ask for to go from, hey, I'd love it if they overcorrected that hard. If they went, hey, we never know what the fuck we're doing. We're just going to get Sean McVay and whatever GM he wants over here and just figure it out. But the realistic one is just to be like, you know what? We're going to give up some of our control. We're going to give up some of our micromanagement. We're going to get Vrabel. And this is the fun fact. And what you mentioned about Ryan Poles is I heard somewhere on the radio recently or on a podcast, the reason Mike Vrabel is kind of hard to deal with in the sense of why people haven't hired him yet is he doesn't want GM control. He doesn't want team management control, but he wants to be able to hire his own GM or be hired as a pair. So that's part of why Mike Vrabel is going to be a big hire this year to some team, is that he does want lockstep, meeting of the minds type of situation with his GM, because he knows how important that is, A, and B, when it didn't happen for him in Tennessee, he was pissed off. He was pissed off about trading A.J. Brown. He was pissed off about the moves that his GM was making. And then, 6-7 months later, he was out. And he was the one fired. So he knows how important that shit is, where a GM and a coach need to come in together. Ryan Poles is not good enough unless you're Mike Vrabel and you come in and you start bossing Ryan Poles around, then what the fuck is the point of Ryan Poles? Just get him out of there because Kevin Warren's his daddy anyway. So that's why I'm ready for that kind of big change. It's going to piss me off because it does set your team back. I've said that a big coaching change doesn't necessarily set your team back, but I think a change like Mike Vrabel and changing a culture, and I'm sick of the leader of men comment. I think I've heard it go into national media at this point. It's so stupid sounding, but like it's at the point where the culture change is so necessary. You look at yesterday. These guys have no pride. The backups can't come in and fill in for roles that starters do. We're barely having the starters do their jobs. You can't, there's no guy here that goes like, well, it's my opportunity next. And when somebody gets hurt, I'm going to come in and not let that job go. There's no one on this team that I can think of that has that hard hitting kind of attitude. So I think you're ready for that culture change. You're ready for some new backups and new blood and all that stuff. And I think you just need to just go with Mike. I don't know what will get me excited this offseason, but it has to be really special because I don't see much future for next year to get me happy.
Thigh and Smy would tell you that Josh Blackwell would be the guy that's ready to step up. Right.
If he was starting at quarterback, maybe we'd be 10-2.
Dude, and you know why Vrabel wants his own personnel guy? Because he has a damn plan.
Yeah.
Because he has an established philosophy from top to bottom. He knows what he wants to do, and therefore he doesn't want someone that fights that. He wants someone that's on board with that from top to bottom, which isn't what Matt Eberflus had going on. It was just like, hey, I'm going to hire an offensive coordinator. I'm going to trust you. Luke Getsy, you run your thing. Shane Waldron, you run your thing. It should not be that way, right? When you're a head coach, you should have an established game plan for the philosophy of the football team from top to bottom. When you looked at Tennessee, you knew exactly what they were. You knew exactly what kind of team they were. They had an identity. I had a little thinking moment about Dan Campbell. I think it was yesterday, maybe it was even this morning, where, I go back and look at that game last year where he went on it, I think for a 2-point conversion 3 times or 4 times or something, to try and win the game instead of just kick the extra point and go into overtime. Or it was 4th down. He tried for a touchdown instead of kicking a field goal, something like that. But it got flagged. It got flagged again. Like he had 3-4 opportunities on it. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. He's like, we're trying it again, and it didn't work, and they lost. And I'm just like, well, there's aggressive and there's stubborn. But there is also something to having an established identity. Fuck the analytics. This is who we are. This is what we do. This is how we operate. When those guys are in that moment, they don't have to question if they're going for it or not. They all know we're doing this because this is what we do. You see what I'm saying? We can talk about whether it works or not. We can talk about whether it's the best game plan or not. Everybody's on the same page, though.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the same damn page, and that is important to have. And I think that goes a little bit undervalued. So as stupid as I think that was, maybe I'm starting to think like, especially after just seeing what they are and how they operate and just what he is, it still has a value to it to do that. I also bring up like, I know you like to make basketball references. I also asked you too, like, when Michael Jordan was playing here, was the triangle offense the hardest offense? Or was just everybody on the damn team bought in on the triangle offense?
Yeah.
And the talent then takes you over the top. You know what I mean? Like, dude, it doesn't have to be Ben Johnson. It doesn't have to be. You can come in here. Yeah, go ahead.
To your point, yeah, it's better than your quarterback yelling at your offensive coordinator to hurry up and get a play call in, right? So you have a situation where you're in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and everybody's already like ready to go and hyped up and running to that line and just waiting for that play call because they know what's about to happen. They're ready to go. They're about to do it. And we're a team where we have the rookie quarterback yelling at a coordinator being like, what the fuck are we doing here? Are we doing it or not? And then Matt Eberflus waving off the kicking team, but then waving him back on. Like that is the shit that we make fun of that Detroit doesn't have to deal with. So I get what you're saying. And there's a value to that. So whether it's defensive first or quarterback second or we're not running the game through Caleb. I think Mike Vrabel's also smart enough, and I don't know, been around football long enough to know, hey man, you gotta ride the horse that, or like kiss the girl that you brought with you, or whatever the hell those phrases are, because he played with Tom Brady, for Christ's sake. He knows how important his defense was to, him being on defense, and the defense that he played on, how important that was to get them over the top. But they knew where their bread was buttered. They knew Tom Brady was the thing. And if Caleb Williams is the thing, he's not going to sit there and be like, you know what? I'm not going to do that because I'm stubborn. I'm not going to let Caleb come out there and be Tom Brady if he's good enough. So I don't know. We're just going to turn this into a Mike Vrabel wish podcast episode and just whatever. But
before we do, let's take a second here to let's get his point out, his love for Josh Blackwell.
Yeah.
I mean,
I should read this out loud.
Yeah,
I, as Carl, am the biggest Josh Blackwell meat rider. Hard stop. And that's it. He rides Josh Blackwell's meat.
I, as Carl, am the biggest Josh Blackwell meat rider.
Yes, correct. So
there you go, Carl. There's your audio clip.
Thank you for the Josh Blackwell support.
You can just keep asking people to just read that as if they're you, and then blame AI for making it up,
I wanted to address a comment in here where Daniel Jeffries just kind of saying, at this point, who's going to have the best opportunity to pull this team up? I'm actually hoping Kevin Warren will have 3 solid candidates and do a complete vetting process. We don't know what his process is. And if he hasn't done this before, which he hasn't, you can't trust that either, Daniel. And unless we're hiring another goddamn consultant, whoever the fuck that is, which you shouldn't have to do as a president of an actual NFL franchise and multiple teams and all that bullshit, I have no trust in anything that Kevin Warren is doing. I have no trust from anyone in this organization at this point, because like we said, there's no one here that knows what they're doing, first of all. Second of all, if you do let the people who kind of know what they're doing do it, like Ryan Poles, you let him hire a head coach and all that good stuff. Well, then, okay, if that coach does poorly, who's getting fired first, the coach or Ryan Poles? Now they're on different timelines unless they get to go together. And what, you're giving Ryan Poles and his underperforming GMing 3 more years? The guy put himself on the hot seat in 1 year doing whatever the hell choices he made. This team is underbuilt. It's underperforming. It has I don't know. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust Ryan Poles at this point. And he was probably the person I trusted the most in this organization. And now I have no trust in him. So that's part of that problem.
I also want to point out Howie Roseman on the Eagles, 3 years after Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl, he fired him.
Yeah.
Okay. Guy wasn't cutting it. Wasn't doing it enough. Wasn't doing his job. It's great. Thank you for winning us the Super Bowl. We'll love you for that. We'll appreciate it. You got the ring too, though, right? Okay. You're not getting the job done consistently. You're not getting it done now. That was 3 years ago. This is now. Meanwhile, Ryan Poles wouldn't even entertain the idea of interviewing somebody else. The problem is clearly Eberflus was on a hot seat because he got fired mid-season. Yet you handled the situation as if that was not even a possibility. Yet it was the truth. It was the case. And so that's where I think, like you said, he really shortened his timeline. If he would have gone out this offseason, fired Eberflus, and gotten a new coach, you could have made an argument for 3 more years.
Yeah. And it didn't really matter which coach that was, right? Like we said, it was almost a downgrade by just not even trying. So that's part of my biggest problem. If you had just hired Cliff Kingsbury as head coach this year, you would have had 3 extra years. It just would have been a fact of the matter, right?
What do you think of Shakes? What do you think of Shake's comment here?
Well, I wanted to bring that up because me and Carl have discussed this before. Montez Sweat has played in a 3-4 before as a stand-up linebacker. So Montez Sweat is not your problem in the conversion aspect of that 3-4 kind of defense. Bill Belichick is off the table. If you hire Bill Belichick, that's the ultimate. We already have too many cooks in this goddamn kitchen, and that's the problem with this team. And then you call Bill in. Bill might quit by like week 3 of the preseason when George tries to knock in his office and give him some advice about football. Bill says, I swear to God, if you walk in my office one more time, I'm going to quit. And he does it, and he'll just walk out because that's Bill Belichick. But that's also George McCaskey. So we've discussed the 3-4 aspect of it. Yeah, Montez Sweat is not your problem. Really, your problem is going to be your interior lineman because Javon Dexter is clearly just like a three-tech tackle, defensive tackle, and then your linebackers are probably your biggest problem because
You
you
know,
don't have Austin Booker might be able to convert, but you just pay TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds all this money. You'd probably have to either trade him, let him go, or find different linebackers, which isn't the end of the world, but that would be your biggest issue in converting is the linebackers more than anything.
yeah, but 60 to 65% of the time you're probably playing nickel or dime anyway.
Right.
So, what we're talking about is maybe a third of the defensive plays that you call throughout a season being in a base formation, a base package. And at that point, too, I don't think it's something that can't be addressed, maybe even in one off season, potentially, depending on how many draft picks you have. You could still sign fill in guys and get guys in here. It wouldn't be perfect. I don't think it's impossible by any means to be able to
It's
swap over with
definitely
the
not
top pick.
impossible.
And yeah, so I don't think although it would be a change, I don't think it would be the craziest thing. I don't think it would be the ultimate setback. And at the end of the day, this defense is very bend don't break with what they do. But we're not talking about like, dissembling a top tier defense here.
I was gonna make that comment. Like, what are we saving at this point, right? Like, what are you're saying? Like, it's not like a Vrabel comes in and goes like, no, you can't touch the defense. Look how well they're playing. They don't fucking play well anymore anyway. So whether it was Eberflus or not, and what he was, if he was the secret sauce somehow, we've said it from the beginning. He was probably a pretty good defensive coordinator. He wasn't the problem there, but you're not breaking up a Hall of Fame defense here. You're just hoping that you can get more out of it. And at this point, it's hard not to get more out of it. These players don't play that fucking hard. Kevin Byard would be a nice rollover too, because Kevin Byard was the safety in Tennessee. So that'd be a cool little transitionary thing too.
And I know it wasn't, they didn't go through a change of defense, but at the end of the day, you have situations where, like in Minnesota, Brian Flores is taking, no-name players and making names out of them.
Absolutely. And I
So,
think, and you look at Denver, and Denver has players that I watched a full Denver game the other day, and I could not name a player other than Patrick Surtain if my life depended on it. And they have the number 2 defense in the league this year. So it really comes down to scheming and effort, and that's what defense is. And if you can do those two things with younger players and guys that make less money, do it. Why not? Because some of these overinflated, overpaid losers are not playing that hard.
and then one more point to that, even we've talked about just the consistency of defenses in general throughout the history of the NFL. Offenses tend to be more consistent year to year on identity, on production, on who they are and how they operate. Defenses spike up and down.
Yeah.
You might have the best defense one year. It might be middle of the tier next year with, same coach, same guys. Like
Look at Baltimore.
it's not something that's extremely consistent at the end of the day anyway. So
Yeah. Sorry, Shake. Yeah,
no,
I thought that too. Shake and I me and Carl broke this down one day. Really talking about that defensive conversion. Yeah, Dexter could probably play a really good end. He already played 4-3 ends, and he could definitely pull that off in a 3-4. That's a good point. Montez, he definitely can stand up. He's done it before. And if Montez plays a TJ Watt role, I mean, TJ Watt isn't dropping back into coverage anytime soon, so that's just is what it is. Edwards and Edmonds, if you're playing 3-4 and you're running them back, but you're just paying those guys a lot of money to be guys in a way that playing in a way that they're not meant to play. And if you have subpar linebacker play for a year by experimenting with them, so be it. Let them fucking walk the next year because who cares? Their contracts are going to be up, and it is what it is. Go get some new young blood and some linebackers. Linebackers are the running backs of the NFL of defense on NFL. You can draft them in the 3rd round, 2nd round, and they'll probably play pretty well as long as they're being coached really well. And guess who they'd be coached by? A Hall of Fame linebacker. So they'll be fine. So
Dave, we talked about, where does the season go from now? And now that the hype about Thomas Brown is a little bit over, I said it last week where I said this team has 2, maybe 3 wins in them. One of those was supposed to be San Francisco.
Yeah.
I think the only chance we have at a win is maybe against Seattle. We might pull one off.
Seattle's
Luckily,
8-5. I mean,
I know
they're a good team.
we might pull one off. Yeah, the Packers have a better record. The Vikings have a better record, and the Lions have a better record. Out of all the teams that we're facing, they will be the worst one. You might sneak one out against one of your divisional rivals. maybe get 2 wins, but I'm at a maybe we get one more win. What do you think?
I'm right there. At the beginning, I thought, if Thomas Brown gave you that new coach bump, like look at, excuse me, Darren Rizzi in New Orleans, and that team played pretty well since Dennis Allen got fired, and they've been playing consistently well. They've won like 3 games, so that's kind of what I expected out of them. But like I said, the inmates ran the asylum a little too hard this year. I don't think they even know how to play for pride at this point. Like they're football players and they're going to play hard. But like you said, if Jalen Johnson, the guy who's going out there and yelling at Eberflus post game, is giving up on some plays, what hope do you have left? That's why I think the only players that are going to remain playing well are younger guys who kind of don't know any better but to play hard. And these veterans that have played in the NFL for 5, 6, 7 years. Tremaine Edmonds played probably his worst game of his career as a Bear. And yeah, guys like that. I mean, they're just going to phone it in for 4 more games. I just don't think it's going to be.
I know
anything
your
serious.
take on Ron Rivera. I don't even know if we want to get into it because that may just
go. I mean,
crash and burn the whole channel down at the end of the day.
Oh, dude, I can't. Like, go look at the last like 6 months of Ron Rivera in Washington, people, before you start talking about Ron Rivera. Please, I beg you. Before anybody brings Ron Rivera up one more time, he's a sweet, kind old man, and I do agree that he's like
done. He's done.
He's nice. I mean, he was doing like grandpa mowing the lawn in his underwear shit towards the end of his career in Washington. Like,
it's the nicest thing I've heard you say about him in the last couple.
Ron Rivera was like calling out his I believe he was yelling. He was calling out Eric Bieniemy at one point about doing something to a running back or calling out a running back,
quarterback.
His quarterback, and Eric Bieniemy being just like that didn't even happen. Or like we did that like a day. We weren't even going to do that yesterday. We were going to do that the next day. He lost total control and touch in Washington. It was really, really bad.
Yeah, and he, as a coach there, didn't handle that the right way. Like you said, he lost control. It might have been the quarterback, Ebony, but like he did not do a good job there, and I don't think that's an option, to be honest with you. And
he did fine in Carolina. That was his peak. Once he went to Washington, it was just downhill at that point.
So yeah, dude,
I do have one more question for you. I mean, it kind of ties into what you were talking about what we were like seeing left in the game. I gave you my example of like Braxton Jones. If you know already you're not paying Braxton Jones, if you just know it, and if you are hiring a new GM and a new coach, they might not want Braxton Jones. So why would you pay that guy, right? That's just kind of one of those things that you need to start deciding. That's why the Bears are always so behind. And hopefully this like ass whooping was a wake-up call for them to just say, you know what, we are doing this. I don't know if Kevin Warren can even pay enough attention to the actual football being played and what's going on there. I don't think he does, and that's part of the problem. So if Ryan Poles is not out there looking for his own replacement at GM, right? So if he knows that Mike Vrabel's a candidate, but Mike Vrabel wants to replace him as GM, guess who's off the table as a head coaching candidate?
No, very good point, David.
So my problem here is who are the like if you could give me five locked in keepers on this team, whether it's GM, coach, player, anything in between. What is the only few things that are a lock in, surefire? You got to carry them over. You got to figure out and save them for next season.
I will answer that, but I'll counter it with this question, and I want you to answer it first. Who is the best player on this team?
Ooh. Okay. So best player and
like
player playing best this season, in my opinion.
No,
the player
in terms of your question. You got to keep them. We got to whatever this and that. So number one,
you got to make DJ Moore work.
You got to make DJ Moore work. You got to make Caleb work.
You got to make Caleb work.
Right? Those two guys, period. You just signed Cole Kmet. Got to make Cole Kmet work. You just signed Jalen Johnson. You got to make Jalen Johnson work.
I really Montez Sweat work.
Yes, although what's his contract like? at the
5
end of the
years, 120 million or whatever it was. 100
okay, so
million.
yeah, so he's still here for the next couple of years. You got to make him work then too.
Yeah. And then
So
I would put a
those would be
sixth.
my 5 for sure.
My sixth player would be as low as Jervon Dexter.
Yeah, pretty much.
Rome Odunze is like a given, but I mean, he's just
Yeah.
going to be here. It's not even like kind of the talking point. It's just who are the you can't move away from these, the non-negotiables of players and things like that. Caleb won, obviously, just from he is your future. Honestly, like I could, if they traded DJ Moore, would you be upset that badly if you got like a first or second round pick for him? I wouldn't
No.
be that upset.
I wouldn't.
I could live with it. I could live with it. If it's Rome and Caleb with Mike Vrabel for the next 3 years, and you got an extra
drafted
first round pick,
right because you drafted Rome. If you got that first round pick back somehow,
yeah.
Right. I mean, dude.
So I would even take DJ Moore. It'd be my list is Caleb, Cole, Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson, Rome Odunze, and that's it. That's the list. Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me replace somebody with Darnell Wright.
Yeah,
you got to make it work. You got to get some more out of
Darnell Wright. I like him. He is not that cornerstone type of guy on the offensive line. However, he's totally probably like a great piece in a good offensive line. If you had better around him, I think he would be doing just fine. You see what I'm saying? But because there's a lot of bad going on everywhere, I do think that a lot of it sometimes, you got to do a lot more. I mean, there's pressure coming every which way and this and that. These guys are out there getting confused left and right. And then, you're giving up assignments here and there too. But you're right. That would be a guy that I do need to play better just because of the value we spent on him, man. So
it's crazy how quickly this became like a rebuild, right? And just like the move, again, and the moves that you got to make them. But that's why what you were saying and what we were saying going into this offseason, stop being a year late. Start being a year ahead for once in your life, in your franchise history. Get a year ahead of it. And right now, if you hire Ben Johnson, I don't know if you're a year ahead because I just don't know what Ben Johnson can bring to that table. I do know what you're going to get out of Mike Vrabel, and that is a much, much higher floor than you've had maybe since Lovie Smith. And even with Lovie, I would say Mike Vrabel is a more safe floor because he will weed out the weak. He will weed out the players that we don't want here anyway, because as fans, we're just sick of those kinds of players. So,
David, I don't get to join you on Tuesday. Carl has replaced me as far as your, general NFL discussions. However, it's something that we've always had privately and whatever. We both love the NFL in general. And I heard a great point brought up on the radio that I wanted to share with you and, all of our listeners just about a little general NFL topic. And I've made this comment before when it comes to analytics and statistics. And it's like, I hear the comment like, oh, well, teams are, 60% on fourth down or 55% on fourth down in this situation from 4th and 3, blah, 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 and this and that. And I've asked you like, okay, so is that league wide? So are you taking all the teams and taking all of the chances and probabilities and statistics of what those outcomes have been from every team? Because I'll tell you what, I believe the Chiefs have a lot better chance picking up 3-4 yards than we do. You know what I mean? So like you could say that, and somebody brought it up because of the situations the Lions were in against Green Bay, where they decided to run the ball at the very end, and how that could have backfired, and how statistically their chance to win if they just kick a field goal was like 82%. But if they run it, it's actually 77%, that you actually cost your team a 5% chance to win. And even though it worked, you still, you know what I mean? But then somebody else was like, yeah, but like, so that's throughout time. They go, how many times have the 2024 Lions been in that situation? And how many times has it worked for them? And if it's 1-1, then you could also make that argument. And I thought that was just a great way to phrase that out, because it's like, these statistics and analytics, you could try and apply them. You still have to understand your team, your strengths. And if that actually applies to that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just thought it was a cool way to put it, and I wanted to share that with you.
I agree. I mean, you've said this for a while, and I think more so this year than ever. I think your point stands because you're seeing this from teams, right? As the Vikings play a different style of football, and I trust them to do certain things much more than I would a different team. So, Dan Campbell getting 1 yard is probably easier. I would trust Dan Campbell to get 2 yards or three yards, excuse me, even much more statistically probable than Matt Eberflus getting 1 on 3rd and 1. I trust Dan Campbell more with a 4th and 3 than Matt Eberflus with a 3rd and 1, right? Or Thomas Brown or the Bears with a 3rd and 1. It's just part of your identity. And then you know what? If Mike Vrabel comes in and goes like, we are a team that punts on 4th and 1, I'm going to trust that because that's what he thinks that this team is going to be good at, giving it back, and we're going to go get that ball back.
You know who I trusted on 4th and 1 always?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
I just wanted to hit some of these comments real quick. Shake, thanks for telling us we were right. That's much
appreciate it, man. He's a great commentator. He was supposed to join us one night, but he had some personal things to go do. We were going to have him on, and he's not a guy who does podcasts or shows or anything. He's just a fan, just a listener, and a guy that comments on our videos here and there. So yeah, we do appreciate you, Shake, and we do appreciate you being honest, dude. We'll say, we don't like to toot our own horn and say we're right and whatnot, but like we have said, hey, we were right about this because now we're actually getting stuff on tape. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, go look at it and you can see we were right. But we'll also say when we're wrong too. We don't pretend that we're sitting here and know everything. So,
and we would love to be wrong in terms of certain points. Prometheus, I'm confused on his confusion of it. When we mentioned DJ Moore going for a 1st or 2nd, do you think we're saying that that's too much or not enough? Because if you could get a 1st round for DJ Moore right now, boy, you better go and do that. Like immediately, you get the money off the books during a rebuild, plus a 1st round pick for a receiver. I think that's probably like a no brainer.
Would you take a high 2nd?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, just replace him with another receiver. I mean, it's just the same thing at that point. He was a mid-round 1st, and we got him as part of a package. I'm not.
He's been a great player.
I do it.
He's been a great player in this league.
But if he's going to be pissed off and not
pissed
like
off
playing,
and like he gets banged up, dude. Gets banged up.
If he doesn't like playing with Caleb, then let him go, man. I mean, I'm not here to like make him the best receiver in Bears history. Like, that's not my thing. I'm all about Rome then. Fuck it. You don't want to be here? Rome can be the number 1 player in Bears history. I'm like I said, we're stuck with Rome now. I didn't want him necessarily at the beginning. I wanted Jackson Powers Johnson and whatever else, but like we're stuck with him now. Whatever. I can, go make some memes about how bad Jackson Powers Johnson is instead. But yeah, I think we're stuck with Rome. Like, Rome is a stud. I do agree. He's going to be very, very good. So let's just put that energy towards Rome. And if DJ doesn't want to be here and Mike Vrabel comes in here and wants to trade him, go for it. And if Ben Johnson comes in here and says DJ Moore's my Amon-Ra St. Brown, then let's go. I'm a DJ fan again because that's what we need out of him. It's more so than, it's what you need with this team and who's in charge. So that is what it is.
Yeah, Shake, and like, and I also think like it goes even deeper than that. I mean, if you're in the moment, you also gotta feel out what your team's doing that game, how they're playing that game. If you haven't picked up 4th and 1 all game, you know what I mean? What's the likelihood that you're going to pick up the next one? Like, at the end of the day, I think that kind of matters too. I heard Matt Ryan say it once where somebody was saying like, oh, they should have, passed it instead of ran it. And he's like, yeah, but their quarterback was like 9 for 27 that day. Now you're asking him in the clutch moment at the end of the game to pass it when he hasn't done that. He's had a bad day. You know what I mean? I think that gets lost a lot of too. And it's just in the moment situations. People just look at statistics and numbers and think they could apply that to every situation. And that is not the case. It starts with the eye test, starts with the situation. Then you got to use statistics and analytics to back up
knowing your team and understanding what your team is good at. That's a big part of it too. So
yeah, it's not their team by any means. It's all Powers Johnson, right?
Yeah, He is single-handedly losing
Yes,
the Raiders games.
left and right. Meanwhile, we dealt with Sam Mustipher and God and
Lucas Patrick.
I didn't. Yeah, I blocked that name out of my head.
This is the question of the episode, right? The Prometheus asking this: would Vrabel even entertain coming here? Under the right circumstances, I believe so. If you give him a blank check and you get Ryan Poles out of here, yes. How much of that is possible? I have no idea. Maybe Kevin Warren is really that much in charge. And if he is, and he says, you know what, fuck it. Let's get a new regime in here, and let's get Vrabel in here, and let's get his GM in here. I'll be back on board 80%, because that means that Kevin Warren is hiring somebody that he knows he can hire and leave alone. That's the point of Kevin Warren. If there is a point to Kevin Warren, is for him to acknowledge that he is not a football guy. He should not be making the GMing and the coaching decisions and the day-to-day stuff. And that if Ryan Poles is not good enough for it, that he can acknowledge that and move on from him as well. Because that'll be the first time the Bears have shown some sort of top to bottom building, right? Instead of hiring the coach first and then drafting a quarterback for that coach after the fact, then getting a GM for him and then firing that GM, but then bringing a new GM and slotting him in there. That is the quickest way for a recipe for disaster. So regardless of this outcome, and yeah, I think it's just Carl and I have made this joke from Arrested Development. You know, like people delude themselves and convince themselves that this system might work. So Ryan Poles getting a second coach that didn't pick his quarterback, but with a lame duck year from a GM, it might work. Or it never works, but it might work for us. Like, no, it won't work. Guys, if Ryan Poles is here and he hires a coach and he sucks, the coach will still be here the year after. You know who will be fired? Fucking Ryan Poles. And then that coach is going to sit there and go, who's my new boss now? And then Kevin Warren comes out of nowhere and goes like, this is your new boss now. And they don't know each other and they're not friends and they don't, like, there has nothing to do. And now you have all these different guys from different trees, from different timelines, and they all have to make it work. So you get Kevin Warren and then a new GM who doesn't know the new coach, and the new coach who doesn't know the quarterback, and the new quarterback who doesn't know the GM and wasn't drafted by the second GM. That's why I'm more in the camp. I am much more in the camp of firing Ryan Poles, get Vrabel in and get his matching GM or whatever, or just fire Poles, get a GM and have him hire the coach. Because clearly this isn't going to work.
So there's ups and downs to everything. Not everything's just black and white. There's benefits and there's, things that don't benefit you. Financials, although they shouldn't be an issue, although that shouldn't be something that's in your way, I guarantee you the fact that Ryan Poles is under contract, they won't want to pay Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles to not be here, and pay two other guys on top of that to be here. And believe me, Ty, you're close. No, I'm kidding. you're skating on thin ice there, buddy. No, but so why would Vrabel want to come here? Like I said, no situation is all one-sided. It's not all good. It's not all bad. There's different things. The front office here, the ownership, definitely an obstacle. Definitely an obstacle that you have to overcome. What the opportunity that this job offers people. I mean, look at the banner right under David. What does it say? 1985. That's before we were both born. We're still talking about it. We're still celebrating it. God damn it! You win one Super Bowl here. You'll never pay a meal for another meal in this town again. You could go ahead and open up restaurants, Vrabel's Steakhouse,
yep.
and you'll be in business and you'll make a ton of money for the rest of your life if you have success for 1 year here. And you'll make a lot more money because it's a major city and there's a lot of fans and a lot of loyalty, and you'll be remembered and you'll be rewarded. And that, not every franchise has that type of an opportunity that comes along with it. It has
my biggest fear is that New England is smart about firing Gerard Mayo and just brings Mike Vrabel back, and then you have no chance. I mean, at that point, you have no chance in competing with that job opportunity for Mike Vrabel. I don't know if If you guys like listening to what we say, and then there's anything that you gain out of today's episode, I think it's just like, just don't be a sucker and be excited for whatever fucking move the Bears make this offseason. Just don't be like all in and on board and be like 10 wins, 12 wins, Super Bowl, Super Bears, and just be a fool, because right now it's such a toss up right now of where this is probably the most crucial point in Bears history for like the next 20 years, because I think they could get it right and the next 10 to 15 years are set up properly, or we're going to be doing this song and dance for a very long time again.
And then just to shake, yeah, I'll just go ahead and rewatch the show. We did definitely kind of go into it and address it, why we both think that he would be probably the option that makes the most sense realistically. And guys, man, like as far as this season goes, I told you, David, like I was like, oh, everybody's on a hype train for Thomas Brown. I go, I haven't heard one person talk about like, what if this goes horribly bad? What if we get blown out, which is what happened? And I texted you the day of, the morning of, and I was like, we'll be on a draft talk real fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's where we're at, guys. For real. That's what's coming up. Yeah. So tomorrow, Tuesday, 6:30, you can hear Dave and Carl go back and forth, and you can hear Carl try and pick out little points that we made tonight, probably, and Dave just squash them. But no, it's 6:30 p.m. NFL Ski League Report, general NFL show. The guys do always wind up talking about the Bears for like 20 minutes anyway. But yeah, and I thought he was going to roast me. Yeah, right. Okay, guy. No, so tune in. Unfortunately, I can't be a part of it, but I do listen, and it's always a great conversation between you two. And it's nice to just get some info about the other teams out there. I know the playoffs are coming up, and there's been a lot of interesting matchups. So yeah, that's something we have going on every Tuesday, that if you guys are free and available, definitely tune in, check that out, man. We'll be here. I'll be making videos, highlight hype videos. I couldn't do one last game. So I just reached out to J2K and I was like, let's just go live. Like, how am I supposed to make a highlight video out of this? David, the first 5 drives, you went 3 and out, and then the next 4, you know what happened on every third down for 4 drives straight? Well, guys, check it out for yourself.
3rd down and 10. Williams can't find anyone.
Caleb, and that's one thing Caleb has done. If it is not open, he's not going to test the water.
Williams under pressure.
You're expecting man from the 49ers, but now Caleb Williams, he's seeing a different look.
3rd down and 5. Williams escapes.
Passing game. He goes up. He's getting Coleman Shelton one-on-one, beats him like a drum.
And Tom Brady all together. 3rd down and 2.
Everyone is one-on-one. It's great coverage. Don't get me wrong.
David, I mean, let's just end it off with this, but I do want to just kind of go back to the initial topic. So, what's Caleb Williams going to learn?
How to run away on 3rd down.
We're going to kill this kid, man. We're going to get killed. I'm telling you.
Real quick, also, Paulie, just
injured, man.
For everybody in the chat, man, because we have like a good showing for a bad week. Channel's growing, and we appreciate everybody, and it's awesome. It's crazy. If you just want to keep helping us out, just thumbs up it or something. Like, I don't know. We give us a couple more likes if you can, please. I don't know. We've never begged or asked, but
I guess we have to do this. All the other channels do it, and we never do it because I'm just always like, yeah, thanks, guys. Guess we got to be like, hey, Daniel Jeffries, Various, Prometheus, Shake. There's some bot in here, I think, some AI bot, Diane Smy. I don't know who that is. All you guys participating, Ebony being in here, making a couple of comments. We appreciate you guys. We really do. And we could just, you're right. You know what? I know I'm right. Thank you. We We appreciate you guys, and we could just have these conversations in private like we used to, but this is why we do it. We decided to share our thoughts and opinions publicly so you guys can, tune in and get some Bears content and enjoy it. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully it's a win-win on both sides. Hopefully you guys like it. Even if you dislike it, let us know, man. We're never shy from a debate. We're never shy from a disagreement. Comment, participate in chat. Let us know. We'll address it. We'll let you know what we think. And if you got a good point, hell, you might change my mind. I'm always open to thinking a different way or being wrong. So this season sucks, guys. Let's not kill Caleb. Anything else, Dave?
No, I'm good. Let's watch another game. I think it's a Monday nighter.
Great.
So we gotta go to work and then watch that.
Well, maybe we'll do a pregame show 6:30 to 7:30.
Yeah. Or a live show, or we'll watch along for the first
right.
quarter
Oh,
before it's 20-0.
I don't know if the chat wants to watch a game with us, man. It's ugly.
Yeah,
That's ugly, guys, because the games are damn ugly. So we just reflect it. Everybody, have a great Monday night. Thank you so much.
care.
And
Thank
bear
you.
down. Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yep.